Hello everyone, so for today's video I wanted to do my current go-to foundation routine. I have been loving how I've been doing my foundation lately, and I just wanted to show you a couple of things that I like to do to really get myself the most flawless finish. It's quite a long video, which I apologise for, but I just feel like there's a lot that I want to say. Obviously people's tastes will change depending on their skin type, which I briefly talk about in the video, and I do share a couple of my favourite skincare things as well. So if you want to find out what I do to get this foundation look, then please just keep watching. So when it comes to getting like a really flawless, even finish that's going to last all day, you really need to make sure that you have a fairly decent skincare routine. Mine is very simple. I don't use any expensive products because I tend to find that they break me out. But I change it up depending on how my skin is. So yesterday it was feeling really dry. So I've recently started using these Garnier sheet masks, and these are the Moisture Bomb, well, it's a tissue mask, and I love this. It's absolutely brilliant. I've used it twice now, and I'm not sure if they still are, but when I bought a bunch of these, I got them from Boots and they were only 99p. I think their full price would be £1.50, so they're still really inexpensive. You know, I've been using this once a week for the last 2 weeks, and I've been loving how it's been making my skin. And when I woke up this morning, my skin still felt really plump and moisturised. So that's something that I would definitely recommend using if you're someone who has more dry skin. If you're someone that has clogged pores, or you tend to get some breakouts, or you just want to kind of detox your face, then I also use the L'Oreal Pure Clay Detox Mask. I used this a couple of nights ago, and I absolutely love this. I've done a full review on it, and I still get a lot of people asking me if I still use it. I still do use it. I use it about once a week. It just depends on how bad my skin is. I had quite a few breakouts in this sort of area, which you probably would have seen in my Morphe palette video, and they have gone down a considerable amount. And this definitely, I feel like, helps because obviously, you want to try and avoid popping spots if you can, although that can be difficult. And obviously it's really important to take off your makeup when you go to bed as well. That's something that I always do, even if it's just a wipe. I would try and avoid using wipes if you can, but my two favourite products to take off my makeup is the Nivea Eye Makeup Remover, and this is the shake bottle, and I absolutely love this. It takes off absolutely any kind of mascara or eyeliner. It's brilliant, and you can normally get it on offer somewhere. So I always have a backup of these. And then I switch up cleansers quite a lot. My favourite cleanser is still the Boots Botanics, the Hot Cloth Cleansing Balm. I really need to pick up another one of them because, as I said, that's my absolute favourite, and it always makes my skin feel so good while I'm using it. But if I don't have that, I normally pick up this L'Oreal Cleansing Milk. This is the Skin Perfection one. It's good, but the only thing that I don't like about this is that I feel like I have to use loads of cotton pads. So sometimes what I do is I'll rub it into my face, and then I'll go and wash my face and sort of massage it off gently with a flannel, like a hot flannel, and that normally helps. But it is a decent cleanser, and especially if you're not someone who wears a ton of makeup, then this is perfect. I also make sure that I wash my face every morning and every night. This is hands down my favourite face wash. This is the Neutrogena 2-in-1 wash and mask. I do use the mask probably about once every 2 weeks because I do have the other things that I use anyway. So this is just something that is so refreshing to use as a mask. And I love using this in the mornings as a little kind of refresher. So that's all really important. And obviously moisturise. And moisturise your skin. I like to moisturise my skin as soon as it's been washed. And when I dry it, I just pat it slightly, but I leave a little bit of the water on. And then I put my moisturiser on. And what I find is it really kind of locks in the water, and it makes my skin so much more moisturised, because lately it has been fairly dry. And I find that when I put foundation on, throughout the day, my nose area can get really dry and flaky. So I like to keep everything as moisturised as possible. Priming is, I feel like it's, again, it depends on your skin type. If you found that your foundation has always stayed on your skin really well, and you've never used a primer, then I probably wouldn't bother splashing out on one. because I think that you'll probably find that there's nothing that's going to make it even better if you find that your foundation already stays on your face anyway. If you have large pores, or if you, like I said, if you have really dry skin or you have mega oily skin, then obviously it might be worth using a primer. Because my skin has been slightly on the drier side, I have been using the Nivea Express Hydration Primer just to give my skin that little bit more like moisture before I go in and put foundation on. And I also do put a little bit of the Maybelline Baby Skin Instant Pore Eraser. I have used the Benefit Professional in the past and I absolutely love that product for pores, but my pores for the last couple of years I don't feel like have been as bad as what they used to be. I used to suffer quite bad with like a lot of like blackheads on my nose, and I felt like my pores around this area were really big. Obviously your skin will change a lot as you grow up, and I feel like my pores have got a lot smaller, and the way I apply my foundation, I normally tend to find that it doesn't sink and settle into the pores. I still like to use a little bit of this anyway, just to kind of smooth this area over, because I find that this is the place where my foundation can look a little bit cakey or patchy or things like that. So I've let my moisturiser sit in, and the way I apply this product is I take a beauty blender. I do clean this, but it is heavily stained, which is really annoying. So I just take a little bit of the primer on the beauty blender and I just like to dab it all around my face. And this product is really good because it is very kind of cooling on your skin. If you're someone that suffers with dry skin, then I do think it's good. When I apply my foundation, I always take a lid off a product and I make sure that it is very clean. So you can just take a wipe or some sort of sanitizing lotion and just give that a good clean. And my current kind of go-to foundation or foundations is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless and the Bourjois Healthy Mixer. And this is a little bit too dark. I bought the shade 52. I probably should have gone for the shade 51, but I don't think that they had that one when I bought it. The Maybelline one is in the shade 110. Whenever I've been colour matched, I always get colour matched to foundations that have a pink undertone. And the problem that I have is that I get incredibly red and my skin can sometimes look really pink, especially on my face. Whereas on my body, it does tend to look a little bit more neutral and a little bit more yellow. So I always find that whenever I use pink undertoned foundations on my face, it just kind of accentuates that. Whereas when I use more yellow base or neutral base, it kind of neutralises my face out, and I just prefer that look better. I know that there are rules about, you know, the colours of your veins and stuff like that, but I do think that trying out the different tones is probably the best thing and seeing how they wear throughout the day, because I find that if pink foundations oxidise on me, they just tend to look so peachy and orange, whereas I can get away with yellow ones more. So these are the two foundations that I mix, and because I am pretty pale at the moment, you can probably see my face does almost look a little bit darker than like my neck and my chest, and that's just because I do tend to get a lot of redness in my face. So I am going to mix a little bit of the Body Shop Lightning Drops. I absolutely love these. They are really good because they don't really change the consistency of the product, they just change the tone of it. So I've just put a small amount of the Maybelline foundation, and then I'm going to take probably about 3/4 of a pump of the Bourjois just in the centre. And then I'm going to add some of the Body Shop Lightning Drops. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a pretty heavy, full coverage, flawless kind of base. But the thing that I like about the way I apply my foundation is I feel like I can really change it depending on like the weather, what I'm doing, how I'm feeling. So I've got the product on the lid. Then what I like to do is take a flat foundation brush and I just mix all the product in together. And then I start applying it on my cheeks, and as you can see, it looks pale on my face, which is exactly what I want it to look. The thing is with foundations is if something's too light for you, you can bronze up your face and you can generally get it all to look better. But whereas when you've got foundations that are too dark, yes, you can blend it down on your neck and things like that, but then you still might end up with some sort of mark. Or if you've got like creases in your neck, then it will gather there and it just tends to look a little bit muddy. So I'm going to, it looks like a lot, but I am spreading it out as much as I can. I just want to get an even amount all over my face, and I try to avoid my under eye area as much as possible because I will be applying concealer on there as well. So I like to apply it on my cheeks first because that's where I want the most coverage. That's the biggest part of my face. So I tend to find that I apply it first there and then kind of spread it out everywhere else, because I don't want too much foundation on my nose or on my forehead. I don't tend to need a lot of coverage on my forehead, and my hair tends to be there anyway. So if I'm doing this all the time, I don't really want to be rubbing any foundation in. So I tend to just put a small amount on my forehead, and I can blend what's in on my nose. So at the moment it looks pretty crazy. And make sure, this is something that I always used to do. I always used to miss this kind of area here. You want to make sure that you really get that in. So now that I've got a nice even coverage, and I still have a little bit of product left on my lid, and I'm just going to start to bounce it on. If you're someone that's got oily skin and you find that like the Beauty Blender makes your foundation look cakey or makes you look greasy, then you can use something more like a kabuki brush and use like a swirling motion. The problem that I find when I do the swirling motion is that it really starts to kind of almost exfoliate my skin and accentuate any dry patches. So with whatever's left on the Beauty Blender, I just like to drag it on my neck. Make sure you blend it. I don't blend it like onto my ear, but I blend it kind of near my ear because I don't want there to be a line there either. So just continue to do this all around your face. And when it comes to my lips, I normally just so I can make sure I don't have any lines around my mouth, I just put it on my lips, but then I do later wipe it off, because if I put foundation on my lips and then try and put my lip product on top of that, it never works out for me. So I'm just going to keep blending it in and then do my forehead last as well. So any areas that are slightly too small for your Beauty Blender, you can just sort of squish it down and then just keep blending. So obviously people you'll use different foundations, but I feel like this method would be good for a lot of different people. And the Beauty Blender does take away some of that product so that you don't end up looking incredibly cakey. So obviously this isn't like a natural finish, but it's not something that looks too harsh. So what I do next will depend on what kind of skin day I'm having. If I don't feel like I need any like spot concealing, then I won't put any on. Obviously you can see that none of my breakouts, I had a couple of sort of where I have had a breakout and you get a little bit of redness on this side, and there's nothing there. So I've just zoomed you in a little bit just so you can see. And you can still see some of my freckles. I like the fact that they still peek through just a little bit and it doesn't make me look sort of too flat. So my natural skin is still showing through. And make sure that when you do around your nose, if you sort of bring your lip down, then you can really get in the sides of your nose, because that is somewhere where your foundation can cake up slightly. And then as you can see, if you take the sponge, you can blend it down your neck a little bit. So if you wanted even more coverage, you could pop some on the Beauty Blender and then just go in again and do a second layer. I'm just going to quickly add just a little bit more on. And I find using this method and letting, because you kind of, the more you blend it, the more it blends into your skin. And I feel like it just makes it look not natural, but it doesn't look so like you've got so much foundation on. So I like to spend a lot of time, if I'm going out or if I want my face to look really sort of good, I like to spend a lot of time buffing that all in. So once you're happy, then I just like to let my skin just sort of settle a little bit before I then go ahead and put some concealer on. So I'm just going to wipe it away from my lips. And then you might find that it's, you don't get a line. And then I just take my finger and just go around my lips. And it just looks a little bit more seamless. I've been using 2 concealers as well. The Collection Lasting Perfection Concealer is an amazing product. It's pretty full coverage, but it can be slightly drying And then I've also got the Bourjois Radiance Reveal Concealer. And I love this, but I just find that these two products together are the most natural and they just look the best for me. So there are two ways you could do it. You could obviously mix it on the lid, but I'm actually going to apply these straight on my eyes. So the Bourjois one they both have doe foot applicators, which does make it a lot easier to apply, and I don't go right up to the corner. I like to leave a little gap because then when you start blending it, it will blend up. So I'm just going to pop some of that on. Just bring it down a little bit. Let the product kind of blend itself down. And then I just take just a small amount of the Collection concealer and just add it on top. For me, it is a little bit difficult to get concealers that are light enough for me, and I feel like these two are a pretty good mix. So I take my Beauty Blender sponge and I start at the bottom. I like to get that all blended out. And then what you do is if you look down, you can bring up your concealer right to the inner corner. And I just take my time and make sure that it doesn't mess up my it doesn't mess up my eyeliner, and it doesn't get stuck in my eyelashes or go in my eye or anything. So if you look up as well, then it will sort of get rid of the creases and go backwards and forwards. So don't just go in one direction, go backwards and forwards, and it will make sure that it will look seamless. And again, I like to spend a little bit of time making sure that it is well blended. It's not going to crease and it settles into the skin really well. And you can see what difference that makes. It just brightens up your eyes so much, but it looks a lot more natural. I don't like it when I have like a really sort of stark difference and my under eyes are too white. So I like to do that. And the reason that I do one eye rather than applying the concealer to both is because, like I said, this one does oxidize slightly, but I feel like if you blend it in straight away, it looks a lot better. So I'm just going to do the same thing on my other eye. Because I'm kind of going a little bit all out, I do want to do some contouring as well. So this is my L'Oreal Infallible Sculpt Contouring like Duo, and I have used this before in a contouring and highlighting video. And I just have this sort of flat fluffy brush that I got from Amazon, and I'm going to take some of the contour colour and just apply it. I don't like to bring it down too far, and then do the same thing on the other side. I tend to find that I only like to contour my cheeks. This area for me is small enough, and I don't want to make it look any smaller by sort of contouring it. So I'm just going to blend it slightly with the brush first. And the thing I like about these kind of brushes is because it has two sides, you can use one side to apply the contour and then use the other side to blend it out. So after you've initially blended that out, you can just take your sponge again and just finish blending it and blend it together with your concealer. So when it comes to powdering your face, this is something which again will depend on your skin type. I would always say to set your under eyes, because I feel like no matter how good your concealer is, you are still somewhat likely to crease. And when you apply your eyeshadow underneath your eyes, you want it to blend nicely and you don't want it to stick to the concealer. If you do have incredibly dry under eyes, then what you can do is, instead of baking like you would normally and apply way too much powder and then sweep it off, you can just take some loose powder on your sponge and just apply enough where you can just set it. I do tend to find that this does look a little bit sort of not as harsh as baking anyway, but using loose powder to set my under eyes is something that I find is the perfect combination, because it really does set it. And sometimes I find with regular setting powders they can look too yellow, so if you use something that's slightly translucent, it's a lot better. And obviously you can control a lot more how much you put on, and because the sponge is slightly damp, it is a lot better. So that's something that I've been doing lately rather than kind of full on baking. And then obviously if you do want to bake, you just apply a little bit more. So I like to just keep going until it's I'm happy with how much it's set, and yeah, and then I just take whatever's left and just put it around my mouth, because that's where I tend to find that if I do get a little bit oily or my foundation starts to break up, it's that area there. And then I like using pressed powders around the rest of my face. And what I like to do is use a smaller brush. You get a lot more control of where you put the product. And I always start in this kind of bottom area of my jaw. And if you just press it on, it doesn't disturb the foundation. And I just find it just looks that little bit more natural. Pop some on my forehead and in between my eyebrows. And then I don't put any product on the brush, and I just take whatever's left, and I try to avoid my under eye area because I have put that loose powder on. I just tend to find that it's a lot better. Contouring will depend on what kind of eye look I do. Sometimes I'll bronze first and contour, sometimes I'll just go straight into contouring. I'm going to go straight into contouring today, and I've been using the Sleek Contour Kit in the colour Light. I absolutely love this with my Real Techniques contour brush. And I try and use quite a light hand first, just to get the product where I want. And then without putting any more product, I go on the other side. And I used to kind of blend it out with this brush, but what I tend to find is it just goes kind of a little bit more muddy. So I take my powder brush that I used and I blend that out. And because I've cream contoured as well, I like the way it looks a lot better. It just creates a little bit more of a subtle look, but you still do look contoured. And then highlight, you can use whatever your favourite highlighter is. I'm just going to use the highlighter in the palette. And if you do suffer with large pores, so like here, if I put too much highlighter there, it can kind of bring them out a little bit more. So I like to keep my highlighter just up here, but really kind of blend it out in this area. And it just looks, it suits my face a little bit better, and I only want this area to be brought up and in the light. So I'm just going to do that on both sides. And I also like to apply some on my nose. I don't really tend to contour my nose. It's just not something that I do. I feel like sometimes it can look too harsh on me, but if it's something that you would like to do, then you can go ahead and do that. And then for blusher, I'm going to take some of the Bourjois blush in the colour 95 Jasper Rose. I absolutely love these and I love the smell of them. And I just like to take it just between where I've contoured and highlight. So at this point you could use some sort of setting spray, you could use a little bit of Fix Plus. I don't have any at the moment, but that is something that I have done in the past. So this is the finished look. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead and finish off the rest of my makeup, and then I will be right back. So I finished up the rest of my makeup, and I tend to find that I don't need to touch up anything throughout the day. This just lasts. And at the moment it seems to be my current kind of go-to if I know that I want my makeup to last all day and I want it to look as nice as possible. I don't want to say natural because, you know, I feel like you can tell I've got foundation on, but it doesn't look cakey and it doesn't look really obvious. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your favourite foundations down below. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!